In this video, we will start talking about how to define and use a procedure. But before that, let's talk about a little bit the Irvine32 library we will use for this class. So the first thing you need to understand what is the link library. So what is the link library and how the linker will be work? When we link a library, for example, in this class, we will use Irvine32 library. So that's actually will be a file contains procedure. So they will have a lot of procedure already being defined in the library. So the procedure in assembly language just similar to C++ function. So that has been compiled into the machine code. So that's why here you will have the procedure, many procedure defined. So in order to build a library, your procedure will be defined. So they start with one or more ASM source file. So they are still in the ASM source file. So then later I will show you under Irvine32, under Irvine directory, actually you can see the ASM file. So after you have this ASM file, we will assemble each into a BOJ object file. So that's why this object file will combine together, construct from one or more object file. So then they being compiled into a machine code. So that's why here you will have a library file. So that's we have the Irvine32.lib file. But this lib file actually is a binary file. You won't be able to see that. So add all the object file into this library file. We were using the Microsoft, the lib utility. So you don't need to worry about this part because all of them is from our author for our textbook. He implement many ASM file. So then they assemble into the many OBJ file. Then using the Microsoft the lib utility to combine into one lib file. So here you will see your program linked to the Irvine32.lib file. So you see lib file is a binary file. So they were using the linker command inside a batch file called the max32.bat. So these two files, you have the Irvine32.lib and the kernel32.lib. So that will be the part of the Microsoft Windows 32 software development kit. So that's why you see here is our program. Our program in our source file, we're using the include Irvine32.inc file. So those .inc file actually including all the procedure prototype. So those procedure prototype will link to the Irvine32.lib. Also, you have kernel32.lib. So they will execute into the kernel32.dll. So this one actually where you can see that. You link to the Irvine32.lib file or kernel.32lib file. Actually, it's not in your source file. It's in the COMSC260 chapter 6 project file you use. So how they will link to Irvine32.lib, kernel32.lib actually is from our COMSC260 _ chapter 5 project. So did you remember in the previous video I showed you, if you open right click to your project file, you open the property toolbar. So then you will see here under the linker. So then in the general, we already add those dependents. So you can see here they already have Irvine32.lib, kernel32.lib. So that's why here is the linker we told them what you need to include. So that's the additional dependency being added. And also afterward, you see here under your linker general, you have the additional library directory. So that directory is I ask you to download the Irvine zip file from our canvas. You need to save that Irvine directory under the C drive. So after you add your Irvine directory under your C drive from your Windows system. So here, let me show you, because I have another my Mac system here. Actually, I install my Windows is under my boot camp. So then the bootcamp from Mac system, I can go to see their folder. So here I just want to show you, I didn't go to the Windows system yet. I just want to show you under the Irvine directory. You see here, you will see the examples. So those example, chapter 3, 4, 5, that's all the some source file you can refer to. Also, they are very useful. You can refer to some source file you want. But most important thing I want to show you here is under your Irvine. So why we need to refer to this directory? Because you can see your Irvine 32 lib is here. Then your Irvine 32 dot. So you have Irvine 32.lib file, like we say, that's a binary file. So then in your source file, you include Irvine 32.inc file that's here. So you will see here, those .inc file, if you really open that, okay, so that's open with the S code. I just want to show you a little bit how they look like. Okay, so your .inc file basically is just a lot of procedure defined, procedure prototype defined. So those procedure prototype we will learn one by one in this class. So that's why here you have the prototype is similar to the C++ function prototype in the Irvine 32.inc file. Okay, in Irvine 32.inc file. But here the .inc file only have the procedure prototype. So if you want to know more, you can go to see all the ASM file that under your Irvine 32.inc only have the procedure prototype. So if you want to see each procedure, how they implement, you can go to examples. So then you will see the lib32 folder. So then you will see here they have Irvine 32.asm file. So you can open that ASM file so you can see all the procedure, how they implement. So that's what I want to show you. If you're interested to see more procedure or assembling file, source file example, after you add your Irvine directory under your C drive, you will see not only the course source file we have under the example, and under the lib32 folder, you also can see those procedure we will use in Irvine 32, how they will implement. Okay, so that's Irvine 32. So let's move forward to our chapter. The next one is how should we define and using the procedure. So the second half in this video and the next video, let's talk about how to define and use procedure. So we will see how to create a procedure. And in your procedure, just like you write a function, sometimes you may need the comments to tell the user how those procedures would receive or passing the data. So you need to put the comments, or we say the documenting the procedure. So we'll give you one example is the sum of procedure. After you define the procedure, you need to code the procedure. And let's talk about more in detail the code and the return instruction in this video. So the rest of that we will talk about in the next video. So the first thing, how to creating a procedure is similar we talk about in the main procedure. That's the first procedure you see, right? Did you remember in your under your .code, you have the main procedure. You have the main is the procedure name, then followed by the PROC directive. So then you have end P. So right. So that's the procedure keyword. So when we write a big problem, divide into a smaller task so we can make them more manageable. So that's why we have the procedure in assembly language, similar to your function in C++. So a procedure is the ASM file equivalent to the Java or C++. So here is the example. We say, for example, you want to write a procedure called sample. So in order to define that, your procedure code block will start from the procedure name, followed by the PROC directive. So then end of the procedure, the same thing is the name of the procedure. So then you end the P. So then in between, that's how you will implement your procedure one by one. So then before you finish your procedure, you will have your RET instruction. So that's what we'll talk about. This RET equivalent to return in C++. So that's the syntax for the procedure you want to implement. So it depends on the name of your procedure. So then you have your end P. So just like we write a function, right? So sometimes we will require what to return and what we will process. So that's why in the procedure, we'll have some similar thing. The most important thing we suggested to documentation for each procedure is a comment to describe all the tasks you will accomplish by this procedure. And the most important thing is you need to know what you are receive, what you are returns, and what are the requires. So the receive actually is a list of input parameter, state their usage, and requirement. So then return actually is after your procedure, what you will return from the procedure. But one thing is here we may not in this class, in this chapter, we didn't talk about what to return the value. It actually is not return the value. It's just the process, the data we process, the register we process in the procedure. So after you return back from the procedure, what will happen? In the example, you will see the return in procedure actually just return back where they code the procedure, not really return the value like C++. So the value actually will be changed during the procedure. So then we need to document that. And also sometimes we have some requirements. So that's optional because sometimes we may require you have some registered value or some precondition they need to be satisfied. If you do have that, you need to also document that. So one thing is if a procedure, when they code without the precondition satisfied, it probably not produce the expected outcome. So we need to document correctly so user know how to use that. So this example is the sum of procedure. We were using this procedure to show you how to define a procedure and how the syntax look like. So the name of the procedure is sum of. So in this sum of procedure, we will add 3 numbers. So these 3 numbers we add together, then we will return the value. So these 3 numbers you want to add together, you need to save in EAX, EBX, ECX register. So after we finish the procedure, the sum of these 3 numbers will be saved in EAX. So that's here we will have the documentation. You see, we say we calculate and return the sum of 3 32-bit integer. So you see receive. You will receive 3 integer in EAX, EBX, ECX. So they can be signed or unsigned. So when they done, so here the returns actually just mean after we finish what the result will be. So the result actually is in EAX. And also all the status flag will be changed. So that's why you can see returns is not really returns anything. The return just means this procedure finished, what will happen, what you are expected. So we don't have any requirement. Okay, so that's why you see here how you will implement the procedure. Remember earlier we told you the syntax. You have the name of your procedure, then followed by the PROC directive. So then at the end of the procedure, again, you have your name. Then you follow by the end P. So then before the end P, you have the return. I will recommend if you are the first time to write a procedure, always have the name of the procedure, PROC, begin. Then have your name of the procedure, then end P. And before that, don't forget the return keyword because this keyword is most students forget about that. So have these 3 lines ready. So then we will see the procedure body. Like earlier we say, right? You have your value in EAX, EBX, ECX. Right, so then we just add EBX to EAX. We add ECX value in EAX. So that's why at the end, your sum will be in EAX. So like earlier we say, you already have this 3 number in EAX, EBX, ECX. So after EBX add to the EAX, you have the two numbers together. So add ECX to EAX. So the three number will be the sum in EAX.